The very first theme tonight from Spirit is breaking the chains. And an overview of some of the energies that came through were the spirit of discouragement. So we'll speak a little bit more to what that means. And that the collective is experiencing a deep sorrow and grief. And yet at the same time, we're going to be experiencing an emancipation of soul and independence that we've never seen the likes of during any timeline. I do know, Natalie, yes, for Tom asking that. Um, so, spirit of discouragement, collective sorrow and grief, emancipation, independence, imagination is coming through really strongly. So, using our imagination, we're being encouraged to speak up, and we're also being encouraged to understand that we are moving through a collective conscious death. And we spoke about this a few calls ago within the metaphorical experience of death for the collective. So there's a little bit more meat in that call regarding that, but we will also address that this evening. The very first lyrics that came through in the reading were, "Somebody save me because I don't want to end up like these actors. My mama never raised a pretender." And Spirit reminds me of that previous sanctuary where we talked about earth keepers versus bad actors, and how the powers that were have had this what we would call artificial logos ability, that they were able to speak their reality into being for a time. They were able to have dominion. And so whatever they said kind of lulled humanity back to sleep. And that was part of the plan for a time. But we have now moved into the time where Spirit calls the meek and the humble begin to inherit the earth, the true earth keepers, those who are in alignment with their soul, with the Spirit. And it's so easy now in these times for many, and moving forward for those that have been veiled, to see through this bad actor mentality. And so the lyric, "Somebody save me because I don't want to end up like these actors," is coming from the souls who feel that they are stuck in this collective narrative, but they are starting to feel like it's out of their control, like something is beyond humanity's ability to rectify the situation. And one of the things that Spirit brought up many times throughout this reading is that we need divine discernment. If we are relying on any single person or group of people or religion or government or any type of entity or authority outside of ourselves, we are going to miss the mark in some way, that we are only going to know where to be on the chessboard moving forward by listening to our own divine discernment. That if we are part of the religion of the state, and Spirit speaks that we have been led through a ritual quite obviously for the last 2 years, for anyone that has been paying attention to where we have to stand and what we have to put on our faces and move here and do this and do that. And the rules are always changing. And so it's kept us in this spirit of discouragement. And Spirit said we have been chained to this spirit of discouragement collectively, which leads to this frequency coming out into the collective of disappointment, weakness, a feeling of woe and helplessness, chaos, and then also renouncement. So we have a lot of cancel culture happening. We have a lot of people ostracizing and separating themselves from other people. So this renunciation, collective wounding coming to the surface again. And Spirit says we're also experiencing loss at a massive level and anxiety. And this is leading us to errors in calculation and a painful and sobering but necessary experience where we begin to recognize that our problems and trouble, which we believe are coming from the outside, are actually coming from within. And the lyrics here were, "It's the poison running through your blood. There's darkness roaming through everything. Evil urges awakening." And that felt like the most important line, that there is evil occurring right now, but that evil is purposeful. We talked about the soul always needing an oppressor or a catalyst to kind of rise up on its hind legs and remember who it really is. And that is what is happening right now. So once again, we go back to Spirit asking us to seek divine discernment, to not listen to anything but the voice within, because there are unreliable sources all around us. And it's going to require us almost to decode or read between the lines, because everything is presenting as an illusion or a misconception. And for those that are not awake or are on the verge of awakening, Spirit said that this is causing a great deal of resentment and also possible feelings of revenge. So those of us who have kind of seen through these veils for a while are actually being called to be kind of the acupuncture needle points that hold this space of neutrality while at the same point able to hold all of the emotions of this human spectrum simultaneously. And so while all of that might sound a little bleak and dark, Spirit wants us to know that we're actually in this first spark of this rapid start of this divine enthusiasm. The affirmation, my fear did not break my will. So this is the collective affirmation right now that we have moved through this metaphorical experience of death, and it has created innovative ideas which will now need expression. So people were beginning to be divinely inspired. They're beginning to create these light structures from the void that are going to build what we need for the new earth. Spirit speaks to this as a feeling of spring, passion, and something which puts us in an excellent mood. It's going to require us to have our wits about us. It's going to bring forth our light and our ancient and most present time divine wisdom. And it's going to bring to humanity a sense of sovereignty, independence, and emancipation, like Spirit says, the world has never seen. And it's going to rely on us collectively expressing our individual, unique soul path. So we're under this guise right now where we have to do things for other people that may not feel resonant to who we are, under this guise that if we do not, we're not being kind, or we're not being thoughtful, or we're not being safe. And yet Spirit says that it's actually when we tune into our inner voice and follow what is true for us that leads to the emancipation and the true expression of individuality that leads to unity rather than the divisiveness that we're currently seeing. We're in a time where we are releasing a lot of grids that this earth can no longer hold. So it's trying to shake off these matrices that no longer fit. And this is the matrix of the frequency of coldness, frigidity, hypocrisy, cynicism, and most importantly, lies from the collective. There's a war matrix, a predator-prey matrix that we have all been under. And that Spirit says that we are now having a transfer of power to a sovereign seated matrix. The lyrics, I know that times are changing. I know that times are strange. No one knows about tomorrow. I know that nothing's certain. Some things you can't explain. And then I swear to God, it's not the end. So Spirit wanting to encourage us that even though things may seem bleak, that we have to remember that what's happening on a physical perspective has already happened in our past, that what we're seeing in front of us is actually our past. And that's why we're always being encouraged to tune inward first. The affirmation, I broke free from the shackles that prevented me from being free and doing what I want. Spirit is encouraging that justice will be served, divine justice. This is the breaking of restraining and overwhelming relationships, bringing to our awareness our addictions and distractions and liberating us from them. The shadow here to be aware of is turning a blind eye to our problems and difficulties, and love which has turned to hatred, as well as inappropriate sexual desire, destructive energy, gossip, and a person or group who purposefully acts against the whole. So these are all of the behind the scenes energies, and I'll give time for anyone to speak to these, and then we can talk about some of the ways that we are practically being encouraged to move and work with these frequencies.